Jessie, who wants to know what makes some people subscribe to more susceptible to subscribing to extreme religions as opposed to others. Jessie, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. So basically that's what I was referring to. Because I have a mother who is an independent Baptist, and even though she's kind of like, I would say, like softened over the years and isn't quite as firebrand as she used to be, she never really grew up with fundamentalist religion. Her mother just kind of went to different churches and stuff, and nothing ever really stuck. But she enrolled in like an independent church when I was probably like 8 or 9, and my sister was 4. And my sister is like really kind of brainwashed and trapped in that religion now. And I guess I was wondering, I mean, I know my mother had a very traumatic childhood, but what causes someone who's not indoctrinated themselves and isn't like really like conditioned to believe that stuff later in life? Yes, she's had traumatic experiences, but my question is, why not gravitate to a little bit more like loving, compassionate type of Christianity versus why would someone want to cling on to like a very oppressive, like fundamentalist religion? Like if you're not like conditioned to like really believe that stuff to begin with.
I would suggest it's because the fundamentalist religions tend to be more pushy and tend to be more, we have all the answers. The more
there's
mainstream,
a level of certainty that comes along with it. That
the mainstream religions tend to be a little bit more, we're inclusive, we're interfaith, come and worship with us if you want. If you don't want to, that's fine. Fundamentalist Baptists are by definition fundamentalist, and your mother's pastor will have been saying things like, here at my church we have the answers. You've had a traumatic childhood. I'm here to tell you why that's happened, and I'm here to tell you how you can get over it. And this is how it's worked in all manner of cults. They target people who have had traumatic backgrounds. They target people who have been through pain and misery, and they come and present the solution. So it's called exploiting emotional vulnerability. That's how cults basically work. That's their modus operandi. And, I can understand it's frustrating. It's frustrating for me because that's how they roped my parents in. But it is extremely successful. Fortunately, in the internet age, it's getting harder and harder for them to do that because, for example, cults like Jehovah's Witnesses, you can debunk their beliefs in just a few clicks on Google. I don't know what it's like for the particular church that your mother's involved in, but it's getting harder and harder for cults to dupe people in the information age. But certainly when you would have been young, there would have been fewer resources for your mother to call upon in engaging critical thinking and debunking some of this stuff that she was sold.
Mm-hmm. They also tend to have a very strong, although strict, sense of community involved in these more strict religions, because they at least a lot of the ones that I'm aware of enforce this sort of idea that because this group of people is the only ones that have the truth, you really shouldn't be hanging out with anybody else. So it's like you have community by default. You have people who supposedly are there for you and understand you and are in your corner by default. You don't even have to work to have those relationships. They are just there. And that is something that people who have been through trauma need, is support, is people. And a tight-knit community isn't always something that is easy to find in a more laid back, I guess is the word for it, a religious community, because people are a lot more free to come and go as they please. There's no rule about associating with each other after the meeting. There's no expectation of people to reach out to each other. It's like, if you do, that's great, but there's within at least the cult that we grew up in, there is a very there's a very strong emphasis on cultivating a community. Whether or not these are actually people you want to be around or get along with, you'd better. So it's really easy to find people to support you in a community like that.
Right. And I totally get that, because I mean, I've seen where the church did do that, or they would prey on people's vulnerabilities and try to get them involved in the church and be super kind at first. And then they start like dropping, like the harder truths and stuff over time. But my thing is, I don't know why she keeps going back, because she had, I mean, I guess it could be years of brainwashing, but like her first experience after we joined the church, she didn't really get along with everybody. And she's the type of person, even though she believes a lot of this, if she's mad at someone or she thinks they're being a jerk, she's going to tell them off. So she always kind of made waves in the church, and they would tell her like things like how she wasn't supposed to divorce my father and how she wasn't supposed to do this and that. She did these things anyways. And then after fighting with them for years, she goes back to another church, and all the guy has to say is, "Oh, yeah, no, I think it's okay. I think you had grounds for divorcing your husband. We're not like that here." They believe all the same things. And it's like, it's almost like, I don't know. It's like she keeps returning to the same people that have failed her. And it's like, I like, a lot of that makes sense. But it's like, what is holding you to them? Like they weren't the best community for her. So that's what
it's an abusive relationship.
Yeah.
It's pretty, and it is difficult to explain from an outsider's perspective. There's really no, that's the simplest answer, is that it is an abusive relationship that is extended to a larger group of people. That's what controlling cult-like groups do. So it is hard to get away, even if you know it's not good for you or it makes you miserable. But we have a couple other calls on the line that I want to try to get to before we wrap up. But thank you for calling in, and I hope that our perspectives sort of gave you a little bit more clarity there.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Jessie.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.